I can't even really begin to tell you what I found. I don't know how to open this video up. I can't reasonably give you guys a solid explanation of the bullshit that waited for me when I opened up a video entitled Proof that Women Are Psychopaths. But once I saw the name of the channel and I saw the MGTOW categorization, it just kinda made too much sense. It is kinda depressing that I've come this far on the internet where actual instances of bashing the female population that I just don't expect any better from these types of YouTubers. So knowing what the title of this video is, I think the contents of it speak for itself. You all know what we're about to get into, so I won't waste time on that. Though before we dive in, I want to make the same disclaimer I give in every MGTOW video that I do so far. I know that some people who go this MGTOW route go the route because they feel disadvantaged in relationships and marriage, as well as divorce. Don't worry, I completely understand, and I'm not lumping you in with this guy, the people that agree with him, or any of the people who commented on his video to agree with him. You're excused. Now, to begin with this 4-minute long masterpiece.
Are the majority of women low-level psychopaths?
No.
Let's examine the most credible academic research regarding this topic, but before we do that, let's define psychopathy. So according to Wikipedia, psychopathy is traditionally defined as a personality disorder characterized by persistent antisocial behavior and impaired empathy and remorse.
Interesting choice. Before we look into the credible sources and studies, let's use a sentence-long introductory statement on a Wikipedia article to give us our complete definition of psychopathy. You could not be a little bit more inclined to give us more than just this single sentence? There are a lot more telling signs and symptoms of being a psychopath that you could introduce to us before you present a case. This definition is just so vague, and it gives those who have a limited or low understanding of the condition less than basic insight. Now, originally I was gonna get on the article's case for being this vague and broad with an introductory statement about such a large topic, thereby giving you some benefit of the doubt in the source that you used, until I discovered that the segment that you read off didn't even end at the word remorse. Hell, the fucking sentence didn't even end there. It's made entirely clear by the lack of a period in your screenshot. Now, some of you may be saying, but Dall, the articles get changed and edited all the time. Maybe the video was recorded at a time where this segment of the article wasn't the same as it is now. And yeah, that's a fair thing to point out considering the nature of Wikipedia. So, Red Pill Wisdom's video came out on July 25th, 2018. At the time of recording, the last recorded edit listed in the page's edit history was on the 22nd, just 3 days prior. And to my knowledge, it wasn't a change to anything regarding that particular segment. Some of the more recent edits handled revising previous edits and finding archived citations. Though this wasn't good enough for me, so I went to the Internet Wayback Machine to see if the introductory statements were the same for a while. The most recent snapshot I looked into was July 7th. Looks basically the same, and this seems to be pretty consistent the more you go back. The page has not been changed like this for a while, or at least this particular segment. So, by presenting us this screenshot, you're cutting out half the entire sentence and presenting it to us as if it were a complete sentence like this, and it's just extremely suspicious on your part. When you're not presenting information to an audience, it's best to actually use all of the information, not just pick and choose what parts get presented. And considering the level of accusation you present in this video, it gives me a strong indication that you're doing this intentionally, and that is not a good start to this video at all.
So someone who lacks empathy and remorse can be considered a low-level psychopath. A high-level psychopath, on the other hand, is someone that demonstrates most, if not all, of the characteristics of a psychopath. And obviously, I'm not suggesting that most women are high-level psychopaths. I am examining whether or not the majority of women are low-level psychopaths.
What? Okay, so we're differentiating low-level and high-level psychopaths by just these characteristics. I could be wrong, but I doubt this is how psychopaths actually work. If we're to assume low-level psychopath means that they can function in society better than someone with a stronger degree of it, then how do these other baseline traits of a psychopath become exclusive to high-level psychopaths? These traits are rampant in people with psychopathy, such as a lack of shame, a lack of interest in how people perceive them, being quite manipulative, having a lot of charm, being pathological liars, a lot of these traits can be found in any psychopath, and even then I don't see how only having a lack of remorse or empathy is somehow something that would make you low level. That's a pretty fucking terrifying trait to have. Basically means that you don't care or regard other people's emotions or feelings. They don't matter to you. And based on the arguments we'll be seeing, I once again have to take this as you presenting us this information quite dishonestly in order to push this narrative, as the low level and high level identities that you describe simply don't work that way and probably don't exist. Either that or your view on women is just as skewed as your view on psychopaths. Well, I mean, that much is obvious, but let's not jump to that shark just yet. One thing to take into account is that psychopaths are born the way they are. The way their brain is structured differs from ours, which causes their behavior.
One of the key differences that we find in the brains of psychopaths is that there's a structural impairment to part of the brain called the amygdala. This is a part of the brain very much involved in the generation of emotion. It was structurally deformed in the psychopaths.
This is something that I even consulted my mom about, as she was someone who studied psychology for years. She basically told me that someone that could be described as a low level would just be able to function in society much better than a high level. They'd be able to just live their lives and not even participate in criminal activity, as opposed to those who feel a lot more inclined to do as they please. I realize you mentioned that you're not suggesting all women are high-level psychopaths, but with your very clear misunderstanding of what a psychopath is, that isn't really much of a consolation. Don't worry, ladies. I'm only examining how most of you have no empathy or remorse for human emotion whatsoever, so we chill, yo.
Don't forget to take your daily red pill.
According to Dr. Tracy and Dr. Bial from the University of British Columbia, they published a peer-reviewed paper from the Journal of Emotion, which was then published by the American Psychological Association. The title is Happy Guys Finish Last: The Impact of Emotional Expression on Sexual Attraction. This research examined the relative sexual attractiveness of individuals showing emotion, expressions of happiness, pride, and shame, compared with a neutral control, across 2 studies using different images and samples, ranging broadly in age. The total sample size was 1,041. A large gender difference emerged in the sexual attractiveness of happy displays. Happiness was the most attractive female emotion expression, and one of the least attractive in males. So when females are happy, men are attracted to that. But when men are happy, females are highly unattractive to that. Men like seeing women happy, and women do not like seeing men happy, and they are turned off by it.
Damn, it didn't take too long to find another issue with the presentation of information. It's quite interesting that you were able to read the introduction regarding the research, yet you didn't actually look into the fucking research within this section. Right after this, we move on to a completely different study, so this is quite literally all you have to present from us from the Happy Guys Finish Last study. And what you have presented us is just a fragment of what this article actually has to offer, how each gender felt about the sexual attractiveness about the other's happiness. The full study looks into the emotions of happiness, pride, shame, and neutral expressions, because those are universal factors that go back to the origins of human mating and social relationships. Now, I guess to be fair, you did point out that pride, shame, and neutral expressions do exist in this, but don't really look into it, so fucking whatever. Showing pride and confidence does have an effect on others and how they perceive you and your social status. Showing pride displays a sense of social superiority. Shame shows that one with this emotion shows humility and an understanding of regret toward an action that they've done, a recognition that they will need to change their behavior. Happiness summons reciprocated feelings of trust and friendliness. That kind of speaks for itself. So does the neutral expression, so we're just not gonna bother with that. To save you guys some trouble, I'll give you the details of what the study actually entailed. I'll provide a link if you want to go check it out yourself, but for those of you who don't care or don't have the time to do it, let's just dive right on in. Brace yourselves though, this is gonna get a little lengthy. The experiment held 2 official studies listed in this document. For study number 1, 184 Canadian undergraduates, half male and half female, were approached by experimenters of their same gender and asked to view a series of photos. Each photo displayed a person of the opposite sex displaying emotions of happiness, pride, shame, and neutral. Only 1 man and 1 woman were used to be photographed in order to prevent the 184 subjects from comparing one photographed target's emotions and attractiveness to another. In other words, this is a science experiment, not Tinder. Using one person gives you only one option and allows the subject to just judge based on the 4 pictures of that person. They were told to rate the attractiveness of the person in the images based on a scale of 1, meaning not so attractive, to 9, meaning extremely attractive. The findings of this experiment were pretty clear and met many of their hypotheses hypotheses. Men found happiness to be the most sexually attractive emotion conveyed by women. Shame seemed to be considered pretty attractive too. Pride was considered to be the least attractive expression, and women found pride in men more attractive than happiness, though shame was also considered to be pretty attractive. While many parts of this test proved to meet their expectations, the ratings for male happiness were low enough to surprise the test holders. They concluded that this could be due to the fact that only one person was used as the target for these pictures, so they held another study. Study number 2. Time to Tinder this shit. This time, 857 people participated in this experiment. The same criteria existed as before: rate the images shown from 1 to 9, except this time over 400 images were used in the entire study. Pretty much all of them were Google searched. Though to offset this, they had people who were trained to identify each expression accurately to find these images for them. Since some emotions can be easily mistaken for others, like shame and sadness, they had to go through all of them and make sure the proper images were the ones that they wanted to use. And they split the groups into 3 samples. Sample A had about 341 of the original number to go into this experiment. These consisted of Canadian undergraduates, just like the first study. Just like before, they were told to rate the images they were given. 160 images were used in total for this experiment. 80 images were of men and 80 were of women, for obvious reasons. Within these 80 images, 20 conveyed one of the 4 expressions. Simple enough. Though Sample A also had to complete something called a sociosexual orientation scale. This was included to determine whether or not the individual participant was rating the person's emotion based off of their oriented mating strategies. Were the men or women in the images the sexual interest of a short-term or long-term sexual relationship of some kind? Sample B had 120 of the original number. These ones were just recruited over social media for the same experiment, but they looked at about 40 images. 10 of them conveyed one of the 4 emotions, and all of these images were different from what Sample A had seen. Sample B had the added benefit of having participants that were older than, well, most of the rest of the study partners. By doing this, you'd be able to get the opinions of people who have different outlooks on dating and romantic relationships due to experience and age. That way, you wouldn't just be getting the opinions of younger people. Sample C had the remaining 396 participants. Typically, the group of participants were largely 50% male and 50% female. Sample B had 80% women, and this sample here had about 67% women participating. They were also Canadian undergraduates. Sample C were asked to review a bunch of pictures, of course, but the catch is that they were given the same image gallery as Sample B, 40 images, 10 of which conveyed each emotion. You see, the catch here is that Sample B were just a bunch of North American adults they found through the internet. Sample A and C were the same demographic as the first study, Canadian undergraduates. By giving the same images to separate sample demographics, you'd be able to see a clear difference in the data between all given samples. And what did the results capture? Well, all 3 samples showed very similar patterns, pretty much what we discovered last time. Female happiness was more attractive than female pride, while the inverse was the case for men. Pride was their most attractive emotion overall. Male shame was also considered to be heavily attractive, not too far under pride. Female shame was also considered to be more so attractive than female pride. There are a lot more details if you're interested in reading this study for yourself, but those are the basics of it. So some of you might already be putting some pieces together and already questioning what this guy has to say so far. So for now, let's just eliminate Red Pill Wisdom's obvious oversight of the pride, shame, and neutral expressions for just a moment. By reading only the introduction, he's ignoring the big picture of this study. And not only that, he's already concluded from that single introduction that this study means that women do not like seeing men happy. Look back at what we just covered. Not the results of the study, but the actual process of how the study worked. It was a simple rating game, giving these men and women a series of pictures to rate how attractive they found them based off of the expressions they were giving. On an article from the University of British Columbia website that discussed the study, they highlighted something Alec Bial said, one of the authors of this study. Shit, I gotta pull up the screenshot. It is important to remember that this study explored first impressions of sexual attraction to images of the opposite sex. We were not asking the participants if they thought these targets would make a good boyfriend or wife. We wanted their gut reactions on carnal sexual attraction. He says previous studies have found positive emotional traits and a nice personality to be highly desirable in a relationship partners. It's as clear as day. This is all simply based on how one feels based off of a first impression of the person being showed to them and nothing else. Hell, the study does mention a reason as to why happiness can be considered less attractive in men than women. As some other studies seem to indicate, displays of happiness, smiling, and general presentation of happiness in general can be considered more of a feminine trait, or at the very least, if the message between two partners indicates possible sexual chemistry, if the female reciprocates it with happiness, it increases a possible mating value for them, as opposed to when men try it. So there you have it. There are a lot more factors that play into this being the case that you don't seem to want to explore. If we cut it off at women don't like it when men are happy, when you don't want to actually listen further, then I just don't know what else I can say to you. This video has been nothing but inaccurate, assumptuous, and completely misleading.
Now let's examine a related topic, which was from an article in The Telegraph, and it's called "Research Finds Women Feel Happy When Their Husband or Partner is Upset. Women can feel happy when they see their husband or partner is upset, new research has suggested." The detailed study found that wives or girlfriends were pleased when their partner showed emotion because they believed it demonstrated a healthy relationships. Dr. Shiri Cohen from the Harvard Medical School, the study's lead author, said it could be that for women, seeing their male partner is upset reflects some degree of the man's investment and emotional engagement in the relationship, even during difficult times. So that is just pure speculation. Okay, so the result of the study is that women gain happiness seeing their husband or boyfriend upset.
I'd almost give this guy credit for not just reading an introduction and a title, but sadly he's doing something even worse, cherry picking. Once he finishes reading what was just said on the first screenshot, he transitions to this. I don't know what this guy is going for here or how this was even set up, because from what the screenshot shows, these two thoughts follow one another when the original article looks more like this. Two paragraphs have separated these two highlighted sections, and it actually does display very important information, namely that women were happy when men took notice of their emotions, though men didn't. Oh, and real quick, can we go back to that one part real quick?
So that is just pure speculation.
No. Look, I have no idea what the fuck your thought process is, considering how out of context and selective you've been with your information so far. But not only did Cohen have a leg to stand on, she expands on this thought in the article, in the next paragraph. Now we gotta find that screenshot. There it is. Wait, that's not it. There it is. This is consistent with what is known about the dissatisfaction women often experience when their male partner becomes emotionally withdrawn and disengaged in response to conflict. Leaving this out kind of makes your comment really fucking infuriating, I'm not gonna lie. And this is frustrating because of how the information itself is being presented. That being that almost all of it isn't being presented. You can't just ignore the entire bulk of the article that is trying to support this comment. That's just not how this shit works. When I first read the title of the article, I thought to myself, there's gotta be more to this. And I was right. In fact, my prediction about the article's actual reasons essentially came true. So I couldn't quite find the study this time, so I'll just relay the information from this article and even link it in the description if you want to check it out yourself. The American Psychology Association conducted a study that recruited 156 heterosexual couples to take place in it. Over 100 of them were in long committed relationships, though weren't married, while the rest were older and married. During the study, a participant was asked to describe a recent incident involving their partner that upset them. After recording the results, the researchers brought in their partner and had them watch both of their recordings, seeing as though their partner did go through the exact same process they did. They were told to take 10 minutes to discuss the incidents while being filmed. The recordings were shown back to them and they were told to give some ratings based on negative and positive reactions while they had watching. Many 30-second clips of the more emotional parts of the 10-minute session were shown to them, and they were given a questionnaire to fill out in order to give their feelings about the recording. On top of this, they measured their overall satisfaction with their relationship and whether or not they felt that their partner was being empathetic. Empathetic, eh? Let's keep that one in mind. And then the results were in. Overall, the findings from the study suggest that men may be more satisfied in their relationship when they can accurately read their partner's positive emotions, while women's relationship satisfaction may uniquely benefit when they can accurately read their partner's negative emotions. Women's satisfaction was more strongly related to the perception that their partners were trying to understand their negative emotions than to men's actual accuracy in reading those emotions. What seems to be the case in this article, based on what we just said, is that women find that a sense of dissatisfaction from their male partner to be a sign that they care for the stability of their relationship. Additionally, they were satisfied by the sheer fact that their partner was making an attempt to figure out what their partner was feeling. They made the effort to try to understand where their anger and sadness was coming from, showing care for them and the stability of their relationship.
Now let's be clear. When a man is feeling upset, he is experiencing emotional pain or suffering. Even though it's not physical pain, it is emotional pain, and the fact that women gain happiness from seeing that shows a lack of empathy and remorse. So are women low-level psychopaths? Yes, they are, and there's no doubt about it.
There's no doubt about it, huh? Well, let's do a quick review, shall we? The basis of this lack of empathy for men comes from a study that proves that women find male expressions of happiness less appealing than their expressions of shame and pride, something that women found more attractive, as well as a study that set out to prove how much satisfaction partners get from their abilities to empathize with the negative emotions they experience. Empathy being a trait that psychopaths can never obtain due to their brain's makeup, meaning that this study does nothing to back up your claim, and all of this based on your misconception of what a psychopath actually is. My friend, how the fuck did this video get so popular and so well received? There's no doubt about it? Bruh. I was doubting everything you said throughout this entire video. Anyone with half a brain could tell that there are fundamentally flawed and downright deceptive ways that you went about presenting your information, or hell, deciding not to present the information based on some bullshit claim of speculation. Everything in this video is doubtful. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and I doubt you did any actual research for this video despite having an actual fucking source to read. How someone manages to do that just baffles me.
Since women gain happiness from seeing their husband upset, we can argue that women gain the same type of happiness immediately after a divorce when their ex-husband is going through the family court system and getting emotionally and financially raped by the family court system. We all know that there are 3 rings to marriage: the engagement ring, wedding ring, and suffer ring. But now, there's an alternative. Introducing the red pill ring and the MGTOW ring. MGTOW wisdom is pure gold, just like both of these rings.
I can't do this. I just can't do this. No final thoughts. No nothing. This whole video was just so stupid, and I was completely frustrated by it. But now it's just fucking stupid enough to be the funniest thing ever. Fuck this video. Here's an adorable picture of me and my friend Squishy as Batman and Robin. We're done here. The video's over. I can't do this.